one of the citizens of Nashville. This is one of your responsibilities. You mean I'm that important? Yes, you are. So we insist that they register the vote. And there are some who come in who may have some problems where they're not eligible, but we are going to let the agency let us know that they are not eligible. If a man is sick, he becomes the ward of his family or becomes the ward of the city. So we try to insist and influence them to take care of yourself. If I have a toothache, I don't have the money to go get a tooth pull. So in the program, we have a network with Matthew Walker. Matthew Walker will give them a free health situation.
And so, in a real sense, you're able to, from your base in the Employment Security Department, you're able to reach out into other areas and find other services that these persons might be able to become involved in. I understand you talked about the homeless population. Do you find a large number of people that come to you are actually homeless persons? And what are some of their situations when you find that?
When a homeless person comes into our program, they will have been referred by the Human Services. They have gone there to get food stamps. In getting food stamps, one of the criteria are that you must be involved in one of the programs that are prevalent. So survival skills, they are mandatorily assigned to survival skills. So when they come in, a lot of them do not have permanent housing or whatever. A lot of them do not have, or from out of town, and don't have ID. That is the biggest fallacy I find in men walking around the streets without positive identification. Of the Tennessee people, I ensure that they get a birth certificate. Why? Because a lot of us as men, our parents, have our birth certificates. So what do you have to prove who you are? You don't. So I get that as a positive proof of who you are.
So you're finding that that's a real problem in terms of a large number of persons not having any, not much less driver's license, anything less, but no real identification as to how to identify themselves.
And you know, like you say, there are a lot of guys who may have problems with driving and they don't have driver's license, but there is a driver's Tennessee ID that they're supposed to have. Well, we insist that they also get that. And once they procure these employment tools, I call them, once they procure those, you can sense that they have a better feeling about themselves. Their low self-esteem has been improved. What? Because they have proof.
And so it's a whole conscious raising, self-esteem kind of thing that you're trying to instill in many of these persons who are dealing with survival skills.
Yes, the educational material that is in the program is like following a script. That's fine. We do that to the word. But however, additionally, those are the things that they find that here's a person who cares. I mean, not that everybody else haven't been, but men have fears of failing as a man, as a father, as a brother, as a person who didn't get enough skills or education. They have fears of this being found out. Well, don't worry about it being found out. You've got to do something about it and go from here. We've got training programs that you've got to get involved. We're going to let you know where they are.
Now, what about literacy? And this, I think, is a very, very important element dealing with employment security. What about some of your literacy programs? And what do you find in your department in terms of the opportunity that people have to become literate? A large number of our people, for example, drop out of high school, and et cetera, and et cetera. But what are we doing in terms of trying to deal with that?
Well, one thing, I'm blessed. I'm in special projects, which handles the food stamp carryover from the Department of Human Services. And our representatives down there, Flo Parsley, Deborah Owens, all the other people that work there, they have the option. If they find a literate person, they have, and they do send them on to literate education or whatever. So that's a good option for them.
And so you think that with this program, what about this program? And you indicated that the survival skills program started in Kansas, and that this is one of the several pilot projects. What about taking such a program, and especially since you indicated that you're dealing with the homeless population, with people who have dropped out of high school and et cetera. What about the cost effectiveness of such a program to apply it on a much larger scale? For example, certainly you might be able to apply it in Nashville, but what about throughout the nation? Is this one of the many possibilities that we can think about when we have to deal with the 40 and the 50% of unemployment that we find in many of our communities. Why don't you, that's what I want you to speak to,
Okay.
speak those kinds of issues.
What we found is Dr. Leonard Thurston indicated at our last conference that there are now 24 states that have got survival skills undergo. And the male situation is growing vastly, and I look forward to the time when it'll be in every major city. I guess the biggest problem right now is they're only attacking the local major cities in the major states right now, but I'm sure the rural areas, they're going to want programs such as this to help them, all of the total. It'll expand, I'm sure.
And so there's a tremendous possibility. What about the staff in such a program? I mean, is this program cost effective in terms of the number of dollars you have to put in for professionals to deal with the people who need these skills?
Well, I'm not, up on the financial situation of that, but I am up on giving my caring, my concern for
Well, do you have
people.
a large number of people, staff members in your own department compared to the number of people you're trying to help?
The only thing we have right now is I do the facilitating for the males in Nashville, and Renetta Swanson is a facilitator for the females in our particular office.
And so in reality, you really have just two persons who are deeply involved in that program, yet you're dealing with a large...
employment security.
Employment security, yet you're dealing with a large number of other folks, and you have access to some of these other offices that you can make referrals to in dealing with these persons.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's depending on how the contract is written as who the clients are. Human Services is the parent operator of that situation, but I'm sure that it can expand. I do envision survival skills from the way it is now, high schools. With the youngsters coming out of high school, they're not prepared. And I also see a possible directional move going toward the prisons, going to help some of the people coming out of the drug programs. So this is a powerful program, and especially for this sect of people, the males. Our prisons are overcrowded, and especially the males, and we've got to do something. We've got to address the issue, and I just applaud the efforts of the Department of Human Services and Employment Security for addressing that issue now, not waiting until it really becomes something bad.
And so there's tremendous possibilities for this program. I think you've indicated the prison population, and there are a large number of minorities involved in that, in the prison population, and there are many other areas that you can become involved in with this program.
And see, the other thing is that if you really look deep, this program could probably be vested into the early childhood of, especially in the low income, maybe the males who are missing. If we can get some good, strong male models or role models to go into the schools at early ages, this can improve the educational growth of a lot of the young blacks particularly. Because I'm getting some feeling from, this is feedback from guys in the group, a lot of especially the male blacks who come in, they have indicated that they had problems in early childhood in school, in that as they began, they didn't know an answer, and by saying the wrong answer, they were chastised. Not knowingly, a lot of teachers said, no, that is not the wrong answer, or fellow students, you didn't know that, you big dummy. So what happens, and these guys are telling me now, they're holding this all these years, that
there was that instance of rejection.
Yes, that rejection I don't want to get again. So what I'll do, I'll be quiet so that I don't get that again. I'll be quiet so I don't have to remove the doubt that people think I don't know. So we need to address the issue of the males in our society and try to help them, get them back initiated in the family life. That's where our worth is going to be. The young children who are coming up today, they need to see some male images.
You know, over these last 5 minutes that we have here, Stephens, let's look at some of the things that are happening in the state dealing with employment, because I think that in Nashville here over the last several months, we've had indication that there's going to be a bicentennial mall, that there's going to be an arena, that there's going to be improvements at Meharry because of the merging, et cetera. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that will be there. Yet we find that there's a tremendous unemployment among many people in the inner cities. And there are a large number of folks who need these kinds of survival skills. So what can you, within your program, say to people this morning about what we ought to do in terms of trying to tie in to some of that money that's going to be available?
Well, first of all, that has to come from on high, of course, and our people who come in who aren't skilled, you need to find some skills that, first of all, you have to be interested in a particular skill. And there are some genuine good apprenticeship programs that are available. Down at 909 on 8th Avenue, they've got the apprenticeship, a log of apprenticeship programs, and very few people are inquiring about them. Well, maybe they don't know. But if that's the case, they need to go and find out. And the jobs that, I'm sure a lot of jobs are going to be opened up when these constructions of these new entities that make our city what we want it to be, that this set of our people are going to be touched.
That if a person has the slightest interest in bricklaying, for example, that you're telling that person this morning that there's an apprentice program in the state of Tennessee that they can learn those crafts and be prepared with those. Speak to that, because...
Well, the thing is, and I urge people everywhere, that if I don't know something, do not be ashamed to search for the answer. You've got to be a resourceful person in society today to be able to get somewhere. If you're not resourceful, you will not have an opportunity to have access to all the options. Go ask for help.
Very good. Now, what if they wanted to find out more about what's going on in terms of survival skills and et cetera? What would you tell them to do this morning?
Well, they can call our office. Our number is 741-2913 to get more additional information on that. And
then, of course, they would have that information. What about finding out about some of these apprenticeships? Programs that we're
They can call the unemployment office down at 8th Avenue, 741-3626.
And you mentioned 901 building.
That's 909 8th Avenue, right down by the Goodwill.
And now, during the last minute or so that we have, are there any, 2 minutes that we have, are there any final comments that you'd like to make in terms of this program, in terms of the kind of support that you're getting for this program, and especially in terms of the future that you see for what you're doing now?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm just elated that our Commissioner, James Davenport, allowed me to be involved in such. It is my life work. I've been doing this type of work all along. I envisioned the program growing. Senator Thelma Harper came and allowed us to have our graduation at the Senate chambers. And what a beautiful feeling that these gentlemen got going to the Senate chambers. In that arena, it gave them an uplifting, it gave me an uplifting just to have the opportunity to expose them to this. And I've gotten indications from our Commissioner Davenport that the program will be continued, and we're waiting for the other data and documentation to substance and to back up whatever the funding will be.
Okay, very good. And let me, over this last minute, thank you, Stephens, for coming by and giving us that information about Survival Skills for Men program. We also understand that there's a survival skill for women, and the next time that we talk to you, we'll have another person to come back and talk about that program. But in the meantime, we certainly want to thank you and the Commissioner for allowing you to come down and give us that information today. And I'm almost sure that it will be very, very important in the lives of some persons who need these skills desperately. And let me thank you for coming by and giving us that information. And let me encourage you to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.